Hello and welcome back to the channel. Myself and Conor McKenna are here to discuss the football championship games at the weekend. We've got 5 matches, and just before we start on the matches that we have this weekend, I know there's been a couple of managerial changes across the counties. So if I'm not mistaken, Antrim obviously have Lenny Harbison's left. Sligo have left their managers left, and Leitrim have retained their manager. So, have you any sort of thoughts on those, and any names in the wind for who might take over there?
Yeah, and Waterford. But just going, we start with Antrim there. Harbinson was the first manager there. He did 3 years in Antrim. I think he did 3 years, 2018, 19, and 20. Harbinson, he said as much that he was very disappointed they didn't get promoted any of those years. I think it's one of those where did Antrim improve under Harbinson? Undoubtedly, yes, I would say. I think they made a lot of positive steps forward now, but he probably didn't really show it on paper, to be honest with you, Gerry, in the sense that they didn't get promoted any of the years. They didn't win a game in the Ulster Championship, and they won one qualifier game. But I think that definitely what Antrim did do is they definitely improved an awful lot, especially I think definitely this year against Cavan last week. We saw, I think this year definitely out of all of them, we saw a different type of Antrim team. Antrim looked good this year. They did a bit better than other years. So I think Harbinson, I think it's definitely a loss to Antrim that he's gone, to be honest. I think that, as I said, he did improve the team, even if it mightn't necessarily have looked like that on paper. But going back, Sligo, Paul Taylor be disappointed. I'm surprised he resigned, Gerry, after not really getting a chance in the championship this year. But I suppose he started in Division 3 and left in Division 4 and didn't get promoted this year. So Taylor would be very disappointed about how his tenure went. I'd imagine he seemed like a very good football man in Sligo. He represented them on the pitch as a player and as a manager. But it's disappointing for him things didn't work out. Terry Hyland saying in Leitrim, Highland, he did a good job last year. They got promoted out of Division 4. They did go straight back down, unfortunately for him, but they did okay in the league. They played well enough in the league without staying up. So, but it seems to be the Leitrim people seem to be happy enough that Highland is staying on as manager. And then Benji Whelan again, bit disappointing for him in his 2 years that they probably didn't do a small bit more. They stayed in Division 4 and the Munster Championship didn't really go their way. But Whelan's a good football man in Waterford. It's one of those people who keeping the game going in the county. But I think, Gerry, it's very hard to know who will take over any of those counties, whether they'll go internal, whether they'll go for an outsider. I think Enda McGinley was linked with the Antrim job, the former Tyrone footballer, but it's impossible to know how it's going to go. But Mickey Hart, there was reports going with, I think, Niall Garland, and then the Gaelic Life broke it that he had requested a year of an extension and that it wasn't given anyway. But I don't know what that means, Gerry. I think nobody needs to know what it means. Nobody even knows that like Garland is a very reliable journalist, and a lot of people have reported. So I'd say it probably is true in the statement, but the Tyrone County Board haven't released a statement or anything like that. So I don't know what the story is there or how it's going to work. But no real other news in the managerial front, and it's hard to know how it's going to pan out at this stage.
I think the Mickey Hart situation is obviously going to be the big news. Like it's one of them situations where I can see it from all. Like you can kind of see, like, yeah, maybe he should move on. Maybe he should get to decide what happens to his future. And so some ways I'm kind of looking at it and I'm thinking like Mickey, you're like, I think he's like 67, 68, and you're like seriously, man, like go and get the cigar, get the slippers. You've really done enough. Like what he's done for Tyrone GAA, like 3 All-Irelands. I think even in Ulster they won 6 Ulster titles under Mickey, and I think like before him and all the years before him they had only won maybe I think it was 11 if I remember it right. But at the same time, it's like I think some people will look at it and say they haven't done this in these amount of years, but at the same time, the standards that Mickey come into and the standards that Mickey would be potentially leaving if he moves on are they're far higher. He's done that, and the success that he had, he built a lot of that. Like, he won titles minor under 21s and moved up into the senior team and built that. Like to me, thinking back to the great Tyrone teams, that won the titles, like I think like obviously there's Canavan, there's Mulligan, there's Kavanagh, and one of my absolute favourites was Brian Dooher. He looked like he was like you're like a crazy old guy that goes to the gym, but he just ran and ran and ran and ran and ran, and he was the heart of that team like for so long, and it's just interesting to see, But I can also think, I can also sympathise with like the guy. Tyrone doesn't have all these great players because there's only one person doing it, and there's probably loads of other people in Tyrone that have been sitting, waiting patiently on the sidelines, thinking, you know, I'm gonna, you know, be the next in line, and probably two or three of them guys, you know, have maybe like gone past that point. So I can see it from that side of things, but it's just, you know, I think Mickey Hart has earned the right to decide himself when he goes, but at the same time, I can see, you know, there will be people there that think, you know, it's my turn, it's my time, and you know, I think that's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, and ultimately, there's going to be one side is going to be annoyed because, you know, there does seem to be a genuine divide between people that think Mickey should stay and people that think Mickey should go.
Yeah, it's as you said, Gerry, even I think as you said, Hart has done a fantastic job. They've won 3 All-Irelands, and I think if anyone's given out about Tyrone about this, I think they should. I think it's a case, Gerry. Be very careful what you wish for, is what I'd say. I think that there's no right or wrong answer to this, and I think it's probably a bit unfair and hard. I'd say it's a pity that people can't be. I think the best thing to happen, Gerry, now would be in the next week or so for a definitive statement whether he knows himself whether he's going to be staying on or whether he's going to be going. I think the fact that if the reports are true and he asked for an extra year, it means he wants to go himself. But I think it's not fair on the man to have him reapply for his own job. To be honest with you, Gerry, that's what I would think. If they're going to do that, they'd be better off just telling them that they don't. They want to seek a change of man. I think that would be disrespectful in some ways. To be honest with you, to have him reapply for his own job. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I think like once he's in the job, you know, as you know, like they're talking about opening it up to clubs, and you know, like who in anywhere in Tyrone, certainly who in Tyrone is going to come up and go up against Mickey Hart and say I've got a better CV than him. You know, there isn't anybody. I've seen a couple of rumors. Like I think it's the classic WhatsApp rumors. You know, there's like Jim McGuinness was going to get it, and Jim Gavin was going to get it, and you know, I think to be honest, they are the classic, you know, 1 in 1,000 that's true that comes out of these WhatsApp rumors. But I think certainly like to make a guy apply for a job that he's done well. Like there's never been a point in all the years that Mickey Hart has been manager of Tyrone where I would say they were outside. Like I wouldn't have said at any stage there was 5 teams in Ireland that I would say, yeah, they'll beat Tyrone. You know, they've always been up there, and certainly, yeah, they haven't won much in recent times, but they've come up against Donegal, who are very good. They've come up against Dublin, who are very good. You know, they seem to get as far as, you know, until they're going up against, you know, the first or second best team in Ireland usually. You know, so I think if he wants to stay, he deserves to stay. But I can understand as well from the other perspective that there will be people, you know, that are thinking, right, you know, this is the time. There's a new generation coming through. There's a lot of young talent, and you know, but at the same time, you know, Mickey done good things with the last, you know, good generation that Tyrone had. So I think it's up in the air. I genuinely don't know what should happen or what will happen, but as you say, I definitely think he deserves better than, you know, come back to like, you know, as if he's like a rookie coming in and, you know, having to apply for his job and proving to somebody, you know, that I know about what to do with your own GAA.
I think if the county board decide that a change needs to be made, then they should probably tell Mickey Hart that they want to have a change. But I don't think the best thing to do would be to say, well, no, the job is open and you have to reapply for a nominee. I think that's not the way to go. I think that it's either that he gets the full backing and has another year, or they just tell him that they want to go down a different pathway. I don't think that would be good, to be honest, Gerry, for them to say that he's not, that they don't, that he has to reapply for his own job like everyone else, that it's an open job for everyone. I think that wouldn't be good. But I think though that Hart, I think he has got an unbelievable drive in him and an unbelievable single-mindedness that he's just so passionate about Tyrone football. And I think that as he's built Tyrone so much, and I think even thinking Garvahi in the centre of excellence is so good as well, Gerry. Like, and I think he looks after so much off the field. But he'd be very good. He kind of does the director of football job as well as the manager's job. And I think Tyrone, people might think Tyrone would push on without him. I wouldn't be as sure. I think the Hart is definitely very, very much an asset, and I think that any country who has someone like that would be in a better position for it. And I just think that, like, Conor Coonahan in Cork at the moment. He's actually back involved in Cork doing the director of football role, and it's really benefiting him. And I think that even if Tyrone, like you see, Neil Peden is doing a director hurling job in Antrim. He was a manager after he's moved upstairs. So I wonder, would that be a practical option to say to Hart that we'd like to have you as maybe a director of football, maybe, or ask him does he want to be involved in that if they do think a change is necessary in the manager. But I don't know even did it need that. I think Hart that I don't know, Gerry. I'm very on the fence with it. I think that I'd never think that people should say that Hart has to go. His record is unbelievable in throwing, and I just don't think that. If it was my decision, I'd probably give him another year. Definitely, Gerry. To be honest with you, I think that I just think that I think that he probably. I think it would be way too risky for Tyrone to assume that he'd just be better off without him.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree with that. So what we'll do then is we'll actually talk about some matches. So I think for me anyway, the biggest game of the weekend is Galway versus Mayo. I think this is actually probably the one province in Ireland where I'm looking at it and I'm like thinking that there's maybe not necessarily a really clear favourite to win the provincial championship. Like I think probably Cork will fancy their chances in Munster, the Dubs in Leinster, and Donegal and Ulster. But I think Galway versus Mayo. Mayo will probably maybe be 60-40 favourites, something like that. But I think this is a big game, and obviously with the knockout element, you know, it makes it even bigger. Mayo obviously get the big win in the league just after the lockdown ended. So what do you think of this one? Who do you fancy going through?
Yeah, I'm it's not only a Connacht final, it's also really an Ireland quarter final like we used to know them as well. I fancy Mayo to win this game. I think just for one reason, I think Mayo bet Galway last year fairly well in the qualifiers. I think if you look at the Mayo squad, it's a better squad than the one Galway have. I think Mayo haven't won a Connacht in 5 years and they want to win this year. Damien Comer is a big loss for Galway. But I just think, Gerry, if you look at it, since the resumption of inter-county activity, Mayo have had 4 games and they've all been knockout in the sense that they've been do or die. If they lost any of them, they would have either been relegated from the league even or knocked out with the championship. They bet Galway, hammered Galway. They lost the Tyrone, they did get relegated, but they're after beating Leitrim and beating Roscommon as well. Galway have had no games that have been do or die since then, Gerry. You know that kind of way. The first day against Mayo, they didn't really play like a team who, okay, they could have won the league if they won their last 2 games, but they didn't really play like a team where that was a major priority. And the Dublin game was a dead rubber in the league, and then Sligo gave them a walkover. So I think the rustiness might just affect Galway, and I'd fancy Mayo to win. But one thing I'm going to say before we move on to the next topic, I think we may enjoy these provincial championships because I think it's going to be last year we're going to get provincial championships where they really mean everything. You know, that kind of way, Gerry. I just think that, I don't know. I don't know why the GAA, they're so quick to change things that are their prize jewels. Like the knockout championship was the attraction of a GAA championship for years, and they wanted to change that. And now you had the qualifiers, the one chance where I think people had adapted. It had become a real attraction of the GAA, the Ireland quarter-final weekend. And now they're trying to go with a split season. I don't know how it's going to work. There's so many different. I haven't really studied them in depth, but I think I just can see it going like ladies football, where the provincial championships are completely irrelevant and they're not part of the actual championship at all. They have no semblance to the Ireland series. And I think, Gerry, the day when that happens, we're going to see the provincial championships become meaningless, and they're going to just be greater. They're going to be they're going to be a different name on an O'Byrne Cup or a McKenna Cup or those pre-season hurling competitions, the football competitions. And I think when that happens, it's going to be a shame for the GAA. And I just don't think people are realising how near a day that is to happen in Gerry, where the provincials are going to just become meaningless. So I just think that I can remember in 2004 when Westmeath won the Delaney Cup, the Leinster Football Championship, and it was just the joy brought to Westmeath. I think this year is similar because when you win a Connacht or an Ulster, a Munster, Leinster, you're knocking out teams as well. Like Cork won a Munster, well, no, they got to a Munster final. They haven't won a Munster yet by any means, but they got to a Munster final, but they knocked out Kerry as well. So it was a huge achievement. But I don't know. I just think that the GAA, personally, I just think the knockout championship is just such the way to go in hurling and football. I think even with the round robin and hurling, changing that, like, and it's just it doesn't do anything for me personally. I'll only keep getting interested when I really think a game is of significance to whoever loses. And Galway and Mayo really is in that bracket this weekend. But I think Mayo are peaking at the right times. James Horan is doing a very, very good job. He's back again for his second tenure, having been there from 2011 to 2014. 2011-14. He was in 4 years. This is his sixth year back, the second year back and sixth year in total. They would have been very disappointed with their performance against Dublin in the last year's All-Ireland final, or semi-final even. I think they're going to beat Galway, Gerry. I think that they have a good team. Cillian O'Connor's playing very good football. The Lee Keegan teams have found a bit of form in the defence. Like the likes of Aidan O'Shea is playing good football in the forwards. They found Tommy Conor seems to be playing a bit of football too for Mayo. Oisin Mullen in the corner back is playing well. And I just think, Gerry, they're going to have too much for Galway this weekend. I think Galway probably got people were a bit quick to run away with the hype on Galway after a good start to the league. I think Galway are a bit of a common team. Yeah, I think Mayo should just have too much for them. And I fancy Mayo to win the Connacht and to that will be their first Connacht since 2015. It's their first Connacht final in 5 years. I expect Mayo to win that, and I expect Mayo to get to the All-Ireland semi-final.
Yeah, and another game that I'm looking forward to a lot this weekend, and I think it's well balanced, is in Leinster, and it's Meath against Kildare. How do you see that one going?
Yeah, it's actually a very good weekend, the Meath and Kildare game. I think this is going to be a very, very good game. It could be one of the games of the weekend, to be honest. I think that Meath are probably the team coming into it with the form. They had a moral victory against Dublin, shall we say, in the second last round of the league. They lost by 4 points in Parnell Park. They got a draw in Monaghan. Now, a draw in Monaghan mightn't have been overly maybe impressive results on paper, but it was away in Monaghan. And what was crucial was because Meath had lost the other 6 games in the league. So they got a draw in their last match. And then they kind of used that momentum to beat Wicklow off the pitch 7-14, 7 points last week. Kildare, on the other hand, Gerry, are a team coming into this game. I would love to be in the position Kildare are in coming into this game. You're coming in off a team that won an All-Ireland under-20 in 2018. Now, granted, I'd never take away a team's achievement winning an All-Ireland, Gerry, but again, what we were saying with change, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the under-21 in football or hurling. It was a brilliant championship. It was really a great gauge for senior. Teams used to win under-21s and bring lads through to senior. That year was the first year of the under-20 championship. Kerry, they made it also a rule that players who play senior couldn't play under-20. So Kerry lost David Clifford and Sean O'Shea, 2 of the best footballers of a generation. So now Kildare back Kerry by a point. Now, I'm not in any way taking from Kildare's achievement. They won an All-Ireland fair and square, but Kerry probably would have beaten them if Clifford and O'Shea had been playing. And I don't think the biggest Kildare fan would deny that. But still, to win an All-Ireland would have showed you that Kildare definitely have good players coming through. Because very few counties have won an All-Ireland at that age group, regardless of who's missing or who's not missing, So, since the last match before the lockdown, Kildare bet Laois in O'Moore Park. Then, since the lockdown, they've beaten Cavan at home, they bet Westmeath at home, and they beat Offaly in the last match. So they've had 4 wins on the bounce against teams. And Meath are a step up in those teams, but 4 wins on the bounce is an awful lot, Gerry. And momentum is a huge thing in sport. And I think that Kildare this weekend, if you look at their team, it's every bit as good as the Meath team, pound for pound, I think. And I think that could be, they could spring a shock this week. I think it's very much a 50-50 game. I don't think people are maybe seeing it that Meath seem to be favourites in most places, but I'm going to go with a bit of a shot. I'm going to go with Kildare to win that game. I think it's a very important game, Gerry, but I think it's important for either of those teams to, I think they have to get up to Division 1. Both of them are in Division 2 next year. They have to get up to Division 1, and they have to, it'll be a bit of a battle to establish themselves as the second best team in Leinster before trying to push themselves as the first. So I think Kildare, I think Jack O'Connor is on paper, he's an outstanding, well, not on paper, he is an outstanding coach. On paper, he's probably the best coach left in the championship at the moment. I don't think any manager in Ireland, actually, there's no manager out of the 12 teams left in the championship that's won anywhere near as much as Jack O'Connor. So I'm going to go with Kildare to beat Meath this weekend, Gerry. Okay,
and the other game in the Leinster Championship then is Dublin against Laois. Obviously, the Dubs they're just a machine. I think probably the question shouldn't be will Dublin beat Laois. It's how many will Dublin beat Laois by, and that's absolutely no disrespect to Laois. It's just it's what we've seen from Dublin over the last while. So, what chance do Laois have?
I don't think they've. I'm going to just say that I've seen Laois a few times this year. I haven't been overly impressed. I think they've won an awful lot of games. They've come from behind to win games late on. It was against that they got 3-3 in the last 5 minutes against Fermanagh, I think, and they really ran. They ambushed Longford in the final quarter and won that game last week as well. So I saw them against Westmeath in the first game back in November. They were very, very poor. They were that day, I think it was in October actually, but they were very, very poor. I think that if they start slow against Dublin, they'll be out with the game after 5 minutes. They will. I think Dublin looked very efficient against Westmeath. They looked like a machine. They were well oiled. They were just so efficient. They were just in complete contrast to how Kerry were against Cork. And I think one of the great strengths of this Dublin team seems to have been Jim Gavin had this installed in them. They didn't take any opponent for granted ever. They always went out and won games every year, fair and square kind of, Gerry, if you get me. There was never any taking teams for granted. They won't take Laois for granted. And because of that, I expect them to win the game very comfortably.
Yeah, I think it's hard. It's hard to see anything other than a comfortable Dublin victory. So up in Ulster, we have the semi-finals of the Ulster Championship. I think the first of these Saturday lunchtime it probably Donegal will be favourites, but I would maybe say that of the four teams left, Armagh is probably the second best of them. So Donegal, Armagh, what do you make of it?
I'm looking forward to this game, Gerry. I think I definitely agree. I think Armagh are definitely second best out of those four teams left in Ulster. I think the geezer, Kieran McGeeney, is a great coach. He is. I think that he's done a very, very good job in Kildare and he's done a very good job in Armagh. Results mightn't maybe back that up as much as people would argue results don't back it up. Some people would argue results do back it up. I'd probably be in the latter category. I think the results, he's had very good results in Kildare and Armagh. And I think the one thing he's had an awful lot of is very bad luck in a lot of matches when they've lost by a point or two against very good teams, particularly when he was in Kildare. I think McGeeney is one of these coaches where he goes into a county and he commits to a long-term project. He joined Kildare in 2008. He was dismissed. He lost by one vote, 29-28, in a county board meeting in 2013 after 6 seasons. And I genuinely believe, Gerry, if Kildare had backed him, that they would have been very close to winning All Ireland. And I don't think Dublin mightn't have been going for as many Leinsters in a row as they are. I think he was just that close to coming with the next, to making that next push with Kildare. They kind of had, in 2011 and 2012, 2011 they were very, very close. Donegal bet them by a point, Dublin bet them by a point. 12 and 13 they had gone back slightly, but I think McGeeney would have been the man to take them to the next level after that when they had gone back. You know, like in McGeeney's defence, the next Kildare didn't really do anything in the next few years either. Like really, you know, I think that Armagh, it's his 6th year in Armagh now. Things are improving. They didn't win a match in the first 4 years. They won in the Ulster Championship. They had a great record in the qualifiers, but the Ulster Championship didn't work out for them the last 4 years. They won a match in Ulster last year against Down. This year, they won a match against Gerry away while getting promoted to Division 1. So things have started really seem to be clicking. I think it's a year too soon, Gerry. I think Donegal will take them to begin. I think, but now I have to say, I think Donegal are a very, very good team, though. I think Donegal have absolutely excellent players around the pitch, and Niamh McGee and Patrick McBrearty seem to be fit this weekend. Those guys should push Donegal over the line. But Armagh will give them a game. They'll give them plenty of it. Armagh are just so inconsistent, and they have an awful tendency to let teams back into the games. They've let I was at the Westmeath match before the lockdown, but just focusing on October since they were playing brilliantly against Roscommon, let Roscommon back in the game, and Roscommon bet them. They let Clare back in the game from a position where they should never have let Clare back in the game, and they let Clare keep promotion match, and they let Derry back into the game again last week in a position where they shouldn't have done. Again, I think that Donegal will take advantage of that if it does happen at the weekend. To be honest, Gerry, I think Donegal are going to win the match. If I'm going to be honest, I think they'll win by a bit to spare. But I think Armagh are definitely second best team. I think Armagh definitely, it's been a very good year, even if they lose by 25 points against Donegal at the weekend. It's been a very good year. I just think though that Donegal are going to be the first team in the Ulster final come tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, and so I think we're both in agreement anyway about Donegal getting to the final. And if they do, they'll be met by either Cavan or Down, who play on Sunday, 1:30. I do think this is maybe pretty close to 50-50. Some people might just side with Down, but there's some wee part of me thinks that Cavan could come through this one. What do you make of it yourself?
Gerry, I'm actually I'll tell you what. The last 3 Ulster finals have seen Cavan in 2019, Fermanagh in 2018, and Down in 2017. And the common denominator has been all those finals have not been close games. They haven't been good finals at all. I just think that having these two teams in a semi, 4 years ago, it would have given one of them a great chance to get into a novel Ulster final, or 3 years ago even. But now, the fact they've been there and not competed, and it's probably going to be Donegal back in their Armagh. If Armagh beat Donegal, this game becomes very interesting all of a sudden. Do you know? But I just think if Donegal beat Armagh, I think they'll win an Ulster title comfortably. But that's probably getting away from the point. But if this was a Derry and Armagh semi-final, I'd be really interested. Or even if it was maybe an Antrim and Derry semi-final. They're teams that haven't been to a final in recent years in Ulster, But I don't know. I think looking at, I was impressed with Down. I watched all of the Antrim Cavan game. I was actually maybe in the country. I was actually semi-impressed with Cavan there. I thought they did a very professional job against Antrim. And I think they had a lot of setbacks throughout the game and seemed to recover them well. I was impressed. I was actually more impressed with Cavan against Antrim than I was when watching Cavan against Monaghan, because I thought they were under no pressure against Monaghan and they didn't play well for large parts, and they kind of took the chances and took an ambush against Monaghan. But I thought against Antrim they were under a lot of pressure and they did a very, very professional performance. They looked like a team who kind of knew how to see out a game, And I just think that I saw Down for a large part of the match against Fermanagh, and they didn't look bad. They kind of kept Fermanagh in the game. They had very cagey first half. Down, they're not the most attractive team on the eye to watch, Gerry, that kind of way. But I think there are good players in Down. I just think it's a 50-50 game. I haven't really been seeing. I wouldn't be too familiar with either team inside out, so I wouldn't be probably forensically analysing it as much as other games. And the reason I haven't probably been doing that as well is because, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think that they're going to be big hitters in the All-Ireland Championship. I don't think either of them are going to win an Ulster Championship. But I think this weekend, if push came to shove, Gerry, I think I'm going to go for Down.
Okay, so obviously, as we say, that is all the matches we have this weekend, just 5, and then I presume the week after we'll have more finals. I don't know whether all Ulster, Leinster, and Munster finals are all on the same weekend. I'm not sure, but obviously with the competition being wrapped up, before Christmas, there'll be matches most weeks, but obviously with teams eliminated, it'll reduce. But so that's all we've time for. I'll let Conor get back to his work on that. And my thanks to Conor, obviously, for joining us again. It's always a pleasure to have him. And hopefully there'll be some good games to watch, both football and hurling. And enjoy the games. And thanks for watching.